Hey everyone, it's Skiesti. I'll be showing you how you can get the most out of Mercy's perhaps most valuable asset, Damage Boost. We'll be learning how it works, why it's so important, its advantages, its interactions, and general tips and guidelines. It's pretty much everything you'd ever need to know, so let's get started. Mercy's Damage Boost is a 30% damage amplification that gives Mercy ultimate charge equal to the damage she amplified. Mercy actually didn't use to receive ult charge if she damage boosted someone that would have killed their target regardless of if she was damage boosting them or not. This seems to be changed now. As you can see, her ult charge goes up by 2% here. It's not a lot, but hey, it's still something. For Mercy's damage boost to be applied, you must damage boost your ally when their projectile is fired. After it's fired, it'll be boosted regardless of if you disconnect the beam or not before it lands. For example, if you damage boost Ashe's dynamite before she fires it, damage boost is applied the entire time. However, if you damage boost after she throws it, it's not going to apply. If a hero has an animation before their attack, such as Zenyatta's volley, you can flick your beam on them briefly before the animation finishes for damage boost to apply. In a sort of similar respect, when allies are reloading, you can damage boost to someone else to maximize your beam uptime. Damage boost is stackable, so you can increase the damage boost on, for example, nano targets or those who are discorded. Also, the name is pretty self-explanatory, but just for clarification, you can't damage boost healing at all. Overwatch 2 places an emphasis on individual player contribution, especially when it comes to damage done. Damage boost is Mercy's primary job as a support. It's where she finds her value as a pocket healer. Mercy's position is rather niche, and being able to use her ability to enhance the damage of teammates allows her to still have a place in the game. Damage boost is where her individual player contribution comes from because she doesn't really do her own damage like other supports. There's a silly amount of clips going around discouraging Mercy players from pocketing, which respectfully is very bad advice. I'd really urge you not to follow that. Pocketing on Mercy is not a bad habit. It's actually a good habit that you should have, and it's a large part of her usefulness. As nicely as I can say this, if you're sitting there healing a full health ally, you quite literally aren't contributing anything. You and your ally both aren't getting any ult charge, you aren't contributing to the fight, and you aren't providing any value. It's just really bad. You can think about pocketing like this. The value of your DPS alone is equal to one person. And if you're just healing between teammates and not damage boosting, your value is the person you're on with a slight +1. However, if you commit to prioritizing damage boost, that gives you and your pocket an additional 30% of a teammate's value, because damage boost's amplification is 30%. Staying with your pocket means they constantly have that benefit, as well as the benefit of receiving healing and protection from you. Doing this means you and your pocket create a value equal to or higher than 2.3 people. An important concept to learn when playing Mercy is knowing when to trade your allies' lives to take enemy lives. Obviously, don't just let your allies die if you can keep them alive, but sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where you're already committed with your DPS when an enemy goes for your ally. Leaving your DPS and going back to help, for example, your second support, means your DPS will very likely die. If you're getting value with your DPS, sometimes it's okay to let your second support die or your other ally, finish the fight, and res them after. There's plenty of advantages to utilizing damage boost, such as reducing the time it takes allies to kill enemies. Allies are able to secure kills and potentially guarantee one-shots on some heroes that might not have it without damage boost. Damage boost adjusts damage breakpoints, essentially meaning that Mercy is making a significant difference to the potential damage done by her allies. Allies get more ult charge when damage boosted. Damage boost doesn't take away ult charge your other support should be getting from healing your tank, and since you're not as focused on keeping everyone's health bars full, although you should still be paying attention, Mercy has more time to analyze the game, which means looking at hero switches, ultimates, tracking players who are dead or alive, looking at respawns, and etc., and then relaying that information over to your team. On the flip side, there is a lot of Mercy players that mention that damage boost isn't useful, and I'd urge them to consider the advantages that just pocketing your DPS has, such as allowing teammates to maintain positions, knowing that they're receiving reliable support, applying pressure to the enemy team, and being able to push aggressively. Try to get into the habit of considering yourself to be independent with your pocket. You two are separate from your team. You're a unit, and you have much more value together. However, you should continue to be aware of your team and second support if they need your assistance. When you're pocketing someone, be mindful about how far you're willing to go with them wherever they're going. You want to be able to follow them far enough to assist them and keep them alive, but not so much that if they die, you'll also die. Try to have an escape target in case an aggressive push or flank goes south. Having a default hero. Before a match or round starts, you should be able to look at your team composition and determine who benefits from damage boost the most. This person will become your default hero, aka the one that you default to pocketing and playing with. To figure out who that is, consider the following. What is a hero's damage fall off? Who has consistent damage? Who is most effective? Who benefits more? Who has better sightlines currently? And later on in the game, you can also ask who is performing better. If you don't have an obvious or ideal hero to pocket, remember that anyone in the game is capable of being a good damage boost target with the right timing and knowledge about when and what to damage boost. Try to watch for ally abilities and ultimates that benefit from damage boost. The default state. The default state is a technique to encourage getting into the damage boost habit. Essentially, you keep damage boost held down, and when you need to heal, you keep holding damage boost, but tap heal briefly, then let go of heal when your ally is full, which will leave you back to damage boosting. This will increase the uptime of your damage boost and maximize the impact your beam uptime has. I personally have damage boost on mouse 1. Admittedly, this was originally because my mouse would double click and it was like kind of broken, but I kept damage boost on mouse 1 because I realized that my brain defaulted more to damage boost when it's the primary mouse button. Normally on a hero, their mouse 1 is the thing they do most often, while their mouse 2 is their secondary, less used option. Since Mercy's primary function is damage boost, it makes sense that it should be first and foremost on M1, although do keep in mind that this means you will have to pistol with M2. General tips. If your ally is full health, swap to damage boost. The only exception to this should be if your ally is about to take damage and you need to prep healing on them. I can't emphasize this enough. Don't waste time healing targets that are already full health, or you'll be missing out on getting full value with Mercy. On a similar note, if the enemy Ana gets an anti-nade on your team, swap to damage boost. A good trick for this is to damage boost for 2 seconds, then swap to healing on the 3rd second to prep for the anti to wear off. Be aware of who does what damage and at what range to determine who is the most effective in different situations to damage boost. Even when allies are injured, you can still damage boost them and wait to heal until they actually really need it. This is a really helpful skill to learn to be able to push damage boost more. Juggling between damage boosting allies when critical and then healing them in downtime lets you optimize the ultimate charge you can get with both beams and maximizes your value as Mercy. Damage boost if your team pushes up at the start of defense rounds for initial damage and ult charge. Quickly damage boost abilities that can benefit a lot from Mercy if timed correctly. Damage boost when enemies are stalling point to kill them quicker. Damage boost when the fight is already over and when your team is cleaning up remaining enemies. This allows your second support to get the ult charge from healing, or you can take it yourself. If you're in Valkyrie, wait until it ends and then get the healing to charge your next Valk. Damage boost to help your DPS finish duels quicker. Damage boost to build ally ultimates quicker. If you have a support with a defensive ultimate like Zenyatta or Lucio, damage boost while their ult is in play, as mostly everyone should be healed from it. But Ski, my DPS aren't hitting any shots! I've heard this from many Mercy players that their DPS aren't hitting shots and therefore they're getting no value from damage boost. Let me try to change your mind by offering a different perspective. Let's say that you're in a lower rank and both teams have a soldier as one of their DPS. Both soldier players are hitting roughly 10% of their shots. However, one of these soldiers is being damage boosted. The soldier that has the damage boost, even though they're hitting the same percentage of their shots, is going to be doing more damage and getting more ult charge. charge. If I can be completely blunt here, I've played DPS in gold, and the amount of Mercy players that I've watched yellow beam their full health tank while I was out there hunting health packs made me wish we had any other support than Mercy. I actually kinda hated having Mercy on my team, and imagine me, Skiesti, hating Mercy. That's like the world ending. No hate to any of the Mercies that I ran into, bless their hearts, but it was pretty frustrating to be on the other end of it. It's important to keep in mind that when you're playing with your DPS, it's not just about damage boost, or the amount of shots connecting. It's also about allowing your DPS to stay alive, keep their positioning, and maintain pressure to be more aggressive. I understand that a lot of you probably watch Mercy players who are likely in Grandmaster, who are getting a lot of damage ticks from their DPS, and end up expecting the same amount of damage ticks in the lower ranks, but you have to temper your expectations. A Grandmaster DPS and a Gold DPS are not going to be hitting the same amount of shots. This means that most of the time, your Gold DPS is actually still being effective for their specific rank. You just have to lower your expectations a little bit. Damage Boost Stats. If you were an Overwatch 1 Mercy player, you might notice your damage amp having decreased in Overwatch 2 from what it was in Overwatch 1. There's a few reasons for this. The first is that there's one less tank on both teams. This means there's one less big health pool for your DPS to chip away at on the enemy team, and one less target on your team to damage boost. There's also less shields at play, meaning you aren't receiving additional damage amp as often from damage done to shields. As well, fights start and end quite quickly, meaning there's less sustained damage being done. So if your damage amplified looks lower, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'd recommend aiming for a damage amplified of between 1.7k and 2k if possible, if not more. It might seem intimidating at first, especially if you're under 1000 damage amplified right now. Try to break it apart into smaller goals. Work on getting 1000, and then 1200, and then 1400, and so on. That way, it'll be more manageable and feel more rewarding as you improve your damage amp. When it comes to beam percentage uptime, I recommend the following of at least 60% offensive beam usage, if not more, and 40% healing beam usage. The higher the offensive beam usage, the better. With that said, there are some exceptions, and different situations will cause stats to vary. In general, stats should probably be thought of as a guideline. They aren't the be-all end-all because they don't give the full picture of what actually happens in a game. Also, keep in mind that if your offensive beam uptime is high, but your actual damage boost number is low, try to take a look at what and when you're damage boosting. Chances are you're not using damage boost effectively. Damage boost versus pistol. Mercy's damage boost is, in most situations, better to use than her pistol. Both you and your ally gain ult charge with damage boost. Damage boost allows you to play behind cover while still contributing. Damage boost is more reliable than pistoling, especially if you play at a higher sensitivity like I do. Swapping between damage boost and healing versus swapping weapons is much quicker. Even in Valkyrie, utilizing chain damage boost amplifies multiple targets and has more value compared to if you swapped to the pistol and just went in by yourself. All in all, you just get more value from damage boost, and I'd recommend reserving your pistol for self-defense or briefly pressuring enemies when necessary. How do I get the most out of damage boost when playing a non-optimal support composition? Sometimes when you're playing Mercy, the second support on your team might pick a support that doesn't work very well with Mercy, such as Zenyatta, Lucio, or Brigitte. Mercy is at her most useful when paired with a support such as Ana, Baptiste, MOIRA, or Kiriko, who have the potential to do a lot of healing alongside their utility so that you can focus on damage boosting. If you find that you're really struggling as Mercy with a non-optimal support pairing, it might be worthwhile to consider switching to someone else, but if you'd rather keep Mercy, you can definitely make those non-optimal support pairings work by understanding what each pairing plays for. Chances are you'll have to do more healing, but depending on who your tank is playing and how your team is playing, you'll still have plenty of opportunities to damage boost. I haven't played a lot of Mercy Brig in Overwatch 2, but Brig is capable of outputting a good amount of healing if they're able to proc inspire frequently, which should allow you to focus damage boost while supplementing healing here and there as necessary. Mercy Lucio plays off of speed. You have to go fast. The idea here is to utilize speed and damage boost so that the enemy doesn't have much time to react. This backline should be quite hard to kill. Sometimes it'll be your Lucio, tank and flank DPS aggressing, while you sit a bit further back with a pocket DPS like Sojourn, or sometimes it'll be the entire team going in. Mercy Zenyatta relies on outputting a lot of damage to make the support pairing work. The DPS you're pocketing with damage boost has to focus the targets that Zen discords to kill them quickly before the enemy has a chance to do more damage to your team than Mercy Zen can heal. When is it okay to damage boost a tank or support instead of a DPS? DPS aren't the only good damage boost targets. As I mentioned earlier, anyone can be capable of being a good target. You can damage boost your tank or other support if you have DPS that aren't ideal pocket targets, like Tracer or Sombra, if your pocket is respawning, if they have the capability of doing a lot of damage, for example a high charge Zarya, a D.Va diving in with her boosters, Zenyatta's volley, Baptiste flanking using his window, etc. Or if they're using abilities, ultimates, or looking to combo. For example, you should look to damage boost your ally, Ana, when she sleeps someone so that she can combo them with her primary fire and nade. Almost anything can be damage boosted. However, there are some exceptions or specific interactions worthy of note. Remember that for damage boost to be applied, you only have to damage boost when the ability is fired. If it's an ability like Cassidy's magnetic grenade, you only have to damage boost it before he releases it. It takes time to detonate, but damage boost will be applied regardless. Tanks. You can't damage boost D.Va's ultimate. You can boost her remech, and if D.Va doesn't have her mech, you should look to damage boost her so she can get it back quicker. Most of Junker Queen's abilities inflict a wound on the target and will heal Junker Queen over time with the damage dealt by wounds. When damage boosting Junker Queen, Mercy will amplify the bleed and the self-heal. The only catch is that you have to be damage boosting for the entire duration. If you stop damage boosting, the bleed and self-heal will no longer be amplified. You can boost Orissa's Javelin, her Javelin Spin, and her ultimate. Sigma's ultimate is a little trickier. You can boost the lift of his ult, but not the slam. You can still damage boost him throughout the ultimate if you want, as it's likely he's going to be attacking the people he lifts with his primary fire, and he does quite a bit of damage. You can boost Winston's right click, his initial jump damage, and the damage from his jump when he lands. You can't boost Wrecking Ball's ultimate, but Pile Drive and when he uses his grapple to knock into enemies is fair game. You can kind of damage boost Zarya's ult. You can boost the impact damage, but not the damage over time. DPS. You can damage boost Bob's damage, but you have to be boosting Bob and not Ashe. You can damage boost Bob's lift. You can boost Bastion's grenade and his ultimate. You can damage boost Cassidy's magnetic grenade. And when you're damage boosting his ultimate, Mercy reduces the time the ultimate takes to lock onto targets. You can't boost Hanzo's ultimate, but you can damage boost the initial arrow from it. You can't boost Junkrat's ult or his steel trap, but you can damage boost his concussion mine. You can damage boost Pharah's concussive blast if it direct hits an enemy. When damage boosting Reaper, you increase his self-regeneration. When damage boosting Sojourn, you increase the charge rate of her railgun. And for Sojourn's snare, you don't have to damage it before she fires it. Oddly enough, it can actually be damage boosted at any point in time that it's out in the field. You can't damage boost Sombra's damage on her ultimate anymore, but you can boost her damage amplified on a hacked target. You can't boost Symmetra's sentry turrets. You can't boost Torbjorn's turret, but you can kind of boost his ultimate. The impact damage of his ult can be boosted, but the damage over time can't. You can't boost Widowmaker's Venom Mine. When damage boosting Widow while she's scoped in, Mercy reduces the required charge Widow needs for a final blow. Support. You can damage boost MOIRA's Biotic Orb. However, it does not increase the amount of damage the orb does. It only increases the rate at which the orb does damage. When MOIRA's ulting, try to damage boost her as it's pretty effective for taking care of squishies or enemies that are low HP. And that'll be it from me for now. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions or if you're struggling with something specific about damage boost. I would be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.